Listen closely, my friends. They never told you the truth. The most dangerous prison in the world has no walls, no guards, no chains. Yet millions of people spend their entire lives trapped inside it, believing they're free. The worst part? Most of them never realize they're prisoners until it's too late. Right now, without even noticing, someone else's opinion is controlling your happiness. A stranger's words can ruin your entire day. One rejection can make you question your worth. One mistake from years ago still whispers in your mind before you fall asleep. You think you're carrying your past, but in reality, your past is carrying you. Over 2,000 years ago, a handful of men discovered a way to break these invisible chains. They couldn't control war, betrayal, death, or fate, but they discovered something far more powerful, a way to become untouchable in a world that never stops testing you. In the next few minutes, you'll learn 12 Stoic principles that have survived emperors, wars, and the collapse of civilizations. But don't make the mistake of thinking these are just old ideas. If you truly understand even one of them, you'll never look at your problems or yourself the same way again. So before we begin, make yourself one promise. Don't just listen to these words. Measure your own life against them, because by the end of this video, you'll discover whether you've been living as the master of your mind, or as a prisoner who never knew the door was unlocked. Let's begin. Principle 1. Command your reactions. Release everything else. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded room. Hundreds of eyes are fixed on you. Then, without warning, someone steps forward and insults you in front of everyone. Your heart races. Your fists tighten. Every part of you screams, "Do something!" That single moment is where most people lose, not because of the insult, but because they surrender control of themselves. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoics understood a truth that most people still haven't learned. The greatest victory is never over another person. It's over the impulse inside you that demands revenge, demands approval, demands that every insult be answered. The moment another person's behavior controls your emotions, they own a piece of your mind. And every reaction you can't control is another piece you willingly give away. Epictetus, born a slave with nothing to his name, discovered a freedom that even kings rarely possess. He taught that people are disturbed not by events, but by the meaning they attach to those events. Think about that. A rude comment is only a few seconds long, yet the story you keep repeating in your head can torture you for weeks. The comment isn't hurting you anymore. Your own mind is. Look at today's world. One hateful comment online ruins someone's entire day. One message left unanswered creates anxiety. One stranger's opinion becomes more important than years of hard work. We have become emotionally controlled by people who don't even know our names. We keep handing strangers the keys to our peace, then wonder why we never feel free. So the next time life tests you, and it will, pause before you react. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this event controlling me, or am I controlling myself? That single question creates the space where real strength is born. Because the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest, the richest, or the most feared. It's the one who cannot be manipulated. Remember this, anyone can control your emotions until the day you decide they can't. That day is the day you become truly free. Principle 2. Live inside the only moment you will ever truly own. Close your eyes for just a second and imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning, but somehow you've been given one extraordinary gift. You already know exactly how your life will end. You know the last conversation you'll ever have, the last sunrise you'll ever see, the last time someone you love will smile at you. Suddenly, every ordinary moment becomes priceless. Now open your eyes. Nothing actually changed. except your awareness. Marcus Aurelius carried this awareness every single day. He ruled the greatest empire on earth, commanded armies, held unimaginable power. Yet every morning he reminded himself that none of it truly belonged to him, not his throne, not his wealth, not even the people he loved. The only thing that was ever completely his was this moment. Yet look at how most people live. Their body exists in today, but their mind lives somewhere else. They replay conversations that ended years ago. They argue with people who aren't even in the room. They rehearse disasters that may never happen. They sacrifice today's peace to solve tomorrow's imaginary problems. And then one day, tomorrow becomes yesterday. Years disappear without ever being lived. This is the greatest theft life ever commits, not because time moves quickly, but because the human mind is almost never present long enough to experience it. The Stoics understood something terrifying. Life is never stolen all at once. It is stolen one distracted morning, one ignored sunset, one unfinished conversation, one postponed dream at a time. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you truly tasted your food instead of scrolling your phone? When was the last time you listened to someone without secretly preparing your reply? When was the last time you looked at the sky without thinking about work, money, or the future? Most people aren't living. They're simply surviving between memories and expectations. So here's your challenge. For the next 60 seconds after this principle ends, don't think about yesterday. Don't negotiate with tomorrow. Just notice your breathing. Feel your heartbeat. Listen to the silence around you. Because this exact moment, the one you're living right now, will never exist again for all of eternity. And one day, when your life is reduced to nothing but memories, you'll realize that today was the life you were waiting for. The greatest tragedy isn't dying too soon. It's reaching the end of your life and discovering you were never truly present while you were living it. Principle 3. Bend before life breaks you. Most people don't break because life is too hard. They break because they spend years fighting battles that were never meant to be won. They demand that life stay predictable, that people never change, and that tomorrow look exactly like today. But life has never made that promise to anyone. There is an old story about two trees standing beside a river. One was a mighty oak that refused to bend. The other was nothing more than a thin reed that moved with every wind. When the storm finally arrived, the oak fought with all its strength until it snapped in half. The reed simply bent, and when the storm passed, it was still standing. That is exactly how life tests you. A failed relationship, a lost opportunity, a sudden betrayal, a door that closes without warning. These moments are not asking how strong you are. They are asking one question: can you adapt without losing yourself? Because strength without flexibility eventually becomes weakness. Epictetus was born into slavery. His body was chained, but his mind never was. He accepted the reality he could not change, then devoted every ounce of energy to becoming the kind of man no one could ever truly imprison. He didn't waste his life asking, "Why did this happen to me?" He asked, "Who can I become because of it?" So when your plans fall apart, don't be in a hurry to call it failure. Sometimes life destroys the path you wanted because it has already seen the destination you cannot yet see. The storm is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is simply clearing the road ahead. The people who survive life aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who know when to stand firm and when to bend without breaking. Principle 4. Stop borrowing your worth from other people's eyes. There is a prison more dangerous than fear, and most people enter it willingly. The moment you begin measuring your value through someone else's approval, you stop living your own life. A compliment makes you feel powerful. A criticism makes you feel worthless. Without realizing it, you've handed strangers the keys to your peace, and now they decide whether you smile or suffer. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that changes every second. Sometimes it tells you you're successful. Sometimes it tells you you're a failure. Sometimes it says you're attractive. Other times it says you'll never be enough. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Yet that is exactly what happens when your self-worth depends on other people's opinions. Their judgments change with their mood, their jealousy, their pain, and their ignorance. Why would you build your identity on something so unstable? Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet every day he reminded himself that applause disappears as quickly as an echo. The crowd that praises you today will celebrate someone else tomorrow. Fame fades. Beauty fades. Status fades. The only thing that survives is the person you become when nobody is watching. Character is the one possession that time cannot steal unless you willingly give it away. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. If social media disappeared tomorrow, if nobody could praise you, if no one ever clapped for your success again, would you still become the person you're trying to become? If the answer is no, then you aren't chasing excellence, you're chasing witnesses. And those are two completely different lives. From this day forward, stop asking, do they approve of me? Start asking, do I respect the person I become when no one is looking? Because the day you no longer need permission to feel worthy, the world loses its greatest weapon against you. A man who knows his own value cannot be controlled by those who never saw it in the first place. Principle 5. Let loss teach you what possession never could. One day, every person you love will become a memory. Every home you built, every achievement you celebrated, every moment you thought would last forever will quietly disappear into time. That isn't a cruel truth. It's the only reason any of it is precious. If nothing could be lost, nothing would ever have value. We don't cry because something was temporary. We cry because it meant something. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than almost anyone in history. He buried children while wearing the crown of the greatest empire on earth. He had the power to command armies, but not the power to stop death from knocking on his own door. Yet instead of becoming bitter, he wrote that loss is simply nature changing its form. He wasn't denying pain. He was refusing to let pain turn into resentment against life itself. Most people don't suffer only because they lose something. They suffer because they secretly believed they owned it forever. The relationship, the money, the opportunity, the person they loved. They treated borrowed gifts as permanent possessions. But life has never signed that contract. Everything you hold today was placed in your hands with one silent condition. One day you must let it go. So don't wait until something is gone before you finally appreciate it. Look at the people sitting beside you tonight. Listen a little longer, speak a little softer, love a little deeper. One ordinary day, without warning, this ordinary moment will become the memory you wish you could live one more time. The strongest hearts are not the ones that never lose. They are the ones that love completely, even while knowing that one day they must say goodbye. Principle 6. Turn every wound into a weapon. There is a question that quietly separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. When life hurts you, what do you become? Most people allow pain to make them bitter. They spend years replaying betrayals, carrying old disappointments like trophies of suffering. They believe their wounds are proof that life has been unfair. But the Stoics believed something completely different. Your pain is not your identity. It is your training. History remembers James Stockdale for surviving 7.5 years as a prisoner of war under unimaginable torture. He wasn't saved by hope alone, because hope without reality eventually breaks. He survived because he accepted the brutal truth of his situation while refusing to surrender the belief that he would one day overcome it. That is Stoicism in its purest form, not denying reality, but refusing to let reality define your spirit. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Chances are they weren't protected from suffering, they were shaped by it. Steel becomes stronger only after passing through fire. Diamonds are formed under crushing pressure. Nature itself never creates strength in comfort. So why do we expect our own character to grow without hardship? The life you're praying for may require a version of you that only pain can create. The next time life breaks your plans, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask something far more dangerous. What is this preparing me for? That single question transforms suffering into purpose. Suddenly, every failure becomes a lesson. Every rejection becomes discipline. Every setback becomes another hammer strike, shaping the person you are slowly becoming. One day, you'll look back and realize the moments you begged God to remove were the very moments that built the person you were always meant to become. Your greatest wound may one day become your greatest source of strength. Principle 7. Build a wealth that the world can never take away. Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover that everything you spent your life chasing is gone. Your money has vanished. Your reputation has collapsed. Your title belongs to someone else. The people who once admired you no longer remember your name. Now ask yourself one question. Who are you when everything you own is taken away? Most people never ask this because they're terrified of the answer. Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome, yet he warned that the poorest person is not the one with the least money, but the one who can never say, enough. Desire has no finish line. Give it one victory, and it immediately demands another. That is why some people have everything yet sleep with restless hearts, while others possess almost nothing and still wake up in peace. The difference has never been wealth. The difference has always been freedom. Look carefully at the world around you. Every advertisement whispers the same lie. You're incomplete. Buy this, achieve that, impress them, and then you'll finally be enough. But that day never arrives. The finish line keeps moving, the house gets bigger, the car gets faster, the followers increase. Yet the emptiness quietly grows with them. A hungry mind can never be satisfied by feeding the ego. The Stoics trained themselves in a strange way. Sometimes they deliberately lived with less, not because they were poor, but because they refused to become slaves to comfort. They wanted to prove something to themselves. If life takes everything from me tomorrow, it cannot take me. That is a level of freedom most people will never experience because they have confused possessions with identity. Tonight, ask yourself one uncomfortable question. What do I own that secretly owns me? Because the day you stop needing the world to complete you is the day the world loses its power to control you. True wealth begins the moment your peace becomes more valuable than your possessions, because no thief, no recession, and no betrayal can ever steal a rich soul. Principle 8. Master the art of letting go. There is a silent tragedy that destroys more lives than failure ever could. It's called attachment. We cling to people who have already left, to mistakes that cannot be undone, to identities we've already outgrown, and to futures that were never promised. We call it love, loyalty, or hope, but many times it is simply the fear of letting go. And the tighter you hold on to what no longer belongs in your life, the more it quietly steals the life that still does. The Stoics believed that suffering rarely comes from the event itself. It comes from our refusal to accept that the event has already happened. Reality says, it's over. The mind whispers, maybe if I replay it one more time, I can change it. So you fight a battle against the past every single day, a battle that can never be won. The past doesn't need your permission to exist, but it does need your permission to keep controlling you. Imagine carrying a heavy stone on your back for years. At first it feels impossible to bear. Eventually, you become so used to its weight that you forget it isn't part of you. Then one day, someone tells you that you can simply put it down. The strange thing is, most people don't, not because they can't, but because they no longer know who they are without the burden. Their pain has become their identity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everything in this world is borrowed. Every friendship, every success, every possession, every season of life arrives with the same invisible promise. It will not stay forever. The wise person doesn't resist this truth. They appreciate what they have while it's here and release it with dignity when it's gone. Because peace is never found in holding on forever. It is found in knowing when it is time to open your hand. So ask yourself tonight, what are you still carrying that life has been asking you to release for years? A person? A failure? A regret? A version of yourself that no longer exists? The moment you finally let go isn't the moment you lose something. It's the moment you make room for the life that has been waiting for you all along. Sometimes the strongest hand is not the one that keeps holding on. It's the one that finally learns to let go. Principle 9. The man who conquers himself can never be defeated. There are two wars every human being fights. The first is against the world, the second is against himself. Most people spend their entire lives trying to win the first while quietly losing the second. They dream of controlling circumstances, changing people, and forcing life to obey their plans. But they ignore the one battlefield that decides every victory, their own mind. The greatest enemy you will ever meet will speak with your own voice. Every morning, before the world has a chance to test you, your mind begins its whispers. You're not ready. Do it tomorrow. One more excuse won't matter. Little by little, those whispers become your identity. You think your life is being shaped by luck, fate, or opportunity, when in reality it is being shaped by the conversations you have with yourself that nobody else can hear. A person who cannot command his own thoughts will eventually become a servant to his emotions. Marcus Aurelius wrote his greatest lessons not for the public, but for himself. His journal was a battlefield where he fought pride, fear, anger, desire, and despair every single day. Even an emperor understood that the hardest person to lead was not an army. It was his own mind. He knew that before you can govern a kingdom, you must first govern your impulses. Self-mastery always comes before world mastery. Look around you. Every addiction begins with one uncontrolled desire. Every broken relationship begins with one uncontrolled emotion. Every ruined future begins with one decision made in a moment of weakness. People think destiny changes in dramatic moments, but destiny is quietly rewritten in the invisible choices nobody applauds. The decision to stay disciplined when no one is watching. The decision to remain silent when anger begs you to speak. The decision to continue when comfort tells you to quit. So tonight, stop asking whether life is against you. Ask a far more uncomfortable question: can I trust myself? Because when your own mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy, nothing outside you can truly defeat you. The man who has mastered himself does not fear losing the world, because he has already won the only victory that lasts forever. Principle 10. Remember that you will die, and finally begin to live. There is one truth that every king, every warrior, every billionaire, and every beggar has shared since the beginning of time. None of them escaped death. It has never accepted a bribe, never cared about status, and never arrived 1 second late. Yet most people live as though they have signed a secret contract with tomorrow. They postpone their dreams, delay their courage, and waste years chasing things that will not matter when their final breath arrives. The greatest illusion is not believing you'll live forever. It's believing you have plenty of time. The Stoics practiced a discipline called memento mori. Remember that you must die. Not because they were obsessed with death, but because they understood something extraordinary. The person who remembers death every day fears life far less. Suddenly, rejection loses its power, embarrassment becomes meaningless, petty arguments look childish. When you realize that one day your name will be spoken for the last time, you stop wasting today trying to impress people who are just as temporary as you are. Imagine standing at the end of your life with one final chance to speak to the person you are today. Would you tell yourself to work a little harder, or to worry a little less? Would you regret the risks you took, or the opportunities you let die because fear convinced you to wait? Almost nobody reaches the end wishing they had spent more time seeking approval, winning arguments, or collecting possessions. They regret the conversations they never had, the love they never expressed, and the life they were too afraid to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, what you say, and what you think." Those words are not a warning. They are an invitation to forgive before it's too late, to begin before you feel ready, to stop living as if your real life starts someday in the future. Because the future has fooled millions of people. It keeps promising tomorrow. Then one day, there are no tomorrows left. So before this video ends, ask yourself one question that has the power to change your entire life. If tonight were the final page of your story, would you be proud of the way you lived today? If the answer is no, then don't wait for a new year, a new job, or a new beginning. Change now. The purpose of remembering death is not to fear the end. It is to make every remaining moment so meaningful that when the end finally comes, you leave this world with peace instead of regret. Principle 11. Protect your mind from noise. The greatest threat to your peace is not chaos. It's constant noise. Never before in human history has the mind been surrounded by so many voices. Every day thousands of opinions compete for your attention. News tells you what to fear. Social media tells you who to become. Strangers tell you what success should look like. Little by little, your own voice becomes so quiet that you no longer recognize it. The tragedy isn't that the world is speaking too loudly. It's that you've forgotten how to listen to yourself. Marcus Aurelius often withdrew from the noise of the empire, not because he hated people, but because he understood a timeless truth. A mind that never experiences silence eventually loses the ability to think. It begins borrowing beliefs instead of discovering them. It repeats ideas instead of questioning them. The loudest voices slowly become its master. And the saddest part is that most people mistake borrowed opinions for their own wisdom. Think about the last time you sat completely alone, without music, without your phone, without a screen, without distraction. For many people, that moment never comes. Silence feels uncomfortable because in silence there is nowhere left to hide. The excuses disappear, the distractions fade away, and for the first time you are forced to meet the person you've been avoiding. yourself. That is why so many people fear silence. It reveals truths that noise was hiding. The Stoics believed that every day the mind should return to stillness the same way the body returns home after a long journey. Because clarity is never found in endless information. It is found in quiet reflection. The strongest decisions are not made in moments of panic. They are born in moments of silence, when emotion finally stops shouting and wisdom is given a chance to speak. So protect your mind the way a king protects his kingdom. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every voice deserves a place inside your head. The world grows louder every year, but the wisest person is the one whose inner voice remains louder than the crowd. Principle 12. Become the person who needs nothing. There is a level of freedom that most people will never experience, not because it is impossible, but because it demands a price they are unwilling to pay. It is the freedom of needing nothing from the world to remain at peace. Most people wake up every morning needing something before they can be happy. They need respect. They need recognition. They need success. They need someone to love them. They need life to go exactly as planned. And the more things you need before you can be at peace, the easier it becomes for the world to control you. Diogenes, though not a Stoic, deeply influenced the philosophy that followed. When Alexander the Great, the most powerful man on earth, stood before him and offered to grant any wish, Diogenes gave an answer that has echoed through history for centuries. He simply said, "Stand out of my sunlight." Imagine that for a moment. A man with nothing looked at the most powerful ruler alive and realized there was nothing he needed from him. In that single moment, it became impossible to intimidate, tempt, or control him. True power had quietly changed hands. The Stoics carried this lesson into every part of life. They trained themselves to become emotionally independent, not cold, not heartless, but free. They loved people without becoming prisoners of them. They enjoyed wealth without depending on it. They welcomed success without allowing it to define them, because they understood a dangerous truth. Anything you cannot live without eventually gains power over you. Your greatest attachment is often your greatest vulnerability. Look honestly at your own life. What could someone take from you that would completely destroy your peace? Is it your reputation, your relationship, your money, your comfort, your identity? Whatever your answer is, that is where your freedom ends. The Stoics would not tell you to stop loving these things. They would simply ask you not to build your soul on foundations that time can erase overnight. So spend your life appreciating everything, but depending on nothing. Let people come into your life, but never hand them ownership of your happiness. Let success visit you, but never confuse it with your identity. Let the world offer its gifts, but remember that your greatest treasure has always lived within your own character. The moment you need nothing to prove your worth, nothing to complete your soul, and nothing outside yourself to remain at peace, you become a person the world can no longer enslave. If you've made it this far, don't make the mistake most people make. Don't close this video. Tell yourself it was inspiring, and return to the same life you had 30 minutes ago. Wisdom that is only admired changes nothing. Wisdom that is lived changes everything. Somewhere in the world, a child took his first breath while someone else took their last. A dream was born while another dream died forever. That is how life has always worked. It doesn't stop. It doesn't wait. It doesn't ask whether you're ready. Every second that passes becomes a part of a life you can never live again. Years from now, almost everything that keeps you awake tonight will be forgotten. The insults, the failures, the opinions of strangers, the fear of being judged, the endless chase for more. Time will bury them all, but one thing will remain: the person those moments slowly shaped you into. In the end, your character will tell your story long after your achievements are forgotten. Marcus Aurelius once ruled an empire that stretched across continents. Today, his palaces have turned to dust. His armies are gone. His wealth has vanished. Yet the quiet thoughts he wrote to himself still guide millions of people across the world. That is the difference between building a life that impresses people and building a life that outlives you. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, don't try to remember all 12 principles. Remember only one question. What is the highest version of myself that this moment is asking me to become? Ask it when you're angry. Ask it when you're afraid. Ask it when you're tempted to quit. Ask it when nobody is watching. Because your destiny will never be decided by one extraordinary moment. It will be written by the ordinary choices you make when no one is there to applaud you. And one day, many years from now, you'll wake up for the last ordinary morning of your life without knowing it's the last. When that day arrives, don't hope that the world remembers your name. Hope that you can look back without regret and say, I was tested, I was broken, I was humbled, but I never stopped becoming the person I was meant to be. That is the Stoic path. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain no longer has the power to define you. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, don't let it end here. Carry one principle into your life today, because philosophy was never meant to stay inside books. It was meant to become the way you live.